Yeah, and speaking of that possibility, I want to pivot into something I think is pretty reliable for this season, but we saw a really late change last year, and that's at the catching position. Last year, Kyle Higashioka was, kind of locked in, penciled in to be our number one catcher, and then uh, a few days before opening day, it was after the end of spring training games, I know, we traded for Jose Trevino. And I think that's where we start with our Platinum Glove winning catcher from last year, who put on an impressive showing, even offensively behind the plate. I mean, a 250 batting average, a WRC plus of 90, which is honestly very good for a catcher, just below league average. And then his defensive prowess, you can't say enough about it. He accrued a 3.7 WAR at a below average offensive season, which goes to show you how good his framing was. I mean, nowadays to win the Platinum Glove as a catcher, you have to really blow by all the advanced analytics. And Trevino did that. How do you feel about his season coming up this year, especially offensively?
So first of all, Cashman's move to acquire him in the first place is probably the best move that he made all last season. You could argue that and Bader are the two most important ones, but just the way that he mans and commands a rotation, and not just a rotation, but also some very volatile relievers, is so impressive. I think that he's probably the most gifted, defensively speaking, catcher in the entire league. Or at least that argument can be made. The fact that other teams didn't like value him in that way just kind of baffles me, honestly. Like, I think that he could have provided so much benefit to several different teams last year. And we really lucked out the fact that Cashman was able to pull that one off. Like, you can criticize Cashman about a lot of things. That is not one. That move worked out beautifully for us. That being said, he did show regression with his bat towards the second half of last season. So I don't expect him to light it up like he did at the beginning of last year. But if we're getting a glove first guy that's able to not only command the zone, but also control the run game really well, like he did last season, his snap throws were amazing. His stolen bases, I think his stolen base caught stealing percentage went up drastically compared to previous years. So his arm strength has gotten better, or his pop time has gotten better. Either way, he's getting into a better throwing position. The dude's really good defensively, and if you can get anything around like a league average bat, I think you have to be happy with him. More than happy, actually. And also, you're going to see a lot of the best way to judge a catcher, in my opinion, is looking at the team ERA. And I think he's going to make that number glow up pretty well.
His fielding runs above average last year at the catching position, 22 runs. I mean, player value added, you're looking at it's plus like 8.5%. All these advanced stats that are really hard to quantify, and I don't really know how they do it. Or, I would be wary in taking too much out of it. But Trevino just blows every other catcher in the league defensively out of the water. Gives
Yep.
you league average bat. I mean, I think you should see a regression to a below league average bat, which is what he's been in the past. His issue is that he's not going to get on base a lot. He slaps some singles here and there. Last year he had about a 670 OPS. And for a lot of the season that was above 720, which is really good as a catcher. I think we should expect about a 650 to 670, which is where he ended up at the second half of last year, like you were saying, Jake. Um, but I'm really confident with him. He elevates this whole staff. He makes everyone better. And we have some top talent in the rotation, and we have some people returning in the bullpen as well. I'm really excited for the work that they can do. I believe in him. I believe in Matt Blake's plan because I think they've showed that they can get the best out of these pitchers by honing in on their better pitches, and just by using good pitches in good locations, which Trevino can offer, and he can also make, while we have umpires behind the plate, he can definitely make our pitchers look a lot better. And the metrics track that, and the eye test tracks that as well.
Even in spring training games, he was framing pitches that I was like, that's not a strike, but he's getting the call. Like I love the high ones that he does. Obviously, the low one is so natural just because you're coming back up to the ball, you're bringing the ball up in the zone. He's like really good at just swatting down and like subtly moving his wrist so that way it's like such a teeny tiny little microscopic move that a lot of catchers cannot pull off. That's very impressive to me. So I don't know, working with guys like especially Carlos Rodon for the first time. I think that is going to be a matchup that you have to watch every single time they work with each other in that battery.
I'm excited for that. That seems like a really good battery. Um, just like fiery,
Yeah,
like really, they're like both like real big winners. Also, Rodon, um, is someone in a very different way than Cole. Cole is such a nerd. Rodon is very much someone who you can see is intent on perfecting his craft, even between innings, even in bullpen sessions. It's been very interesting to watch, and I think that's a good attitude that Trevi kind of brings around the entire team. Like not just Cole, Trevi kind of brings like that cool energy and that very
yeah.
professional um approach to everybody.